G'day, welcome to the Victory Channel. My name is Matt Fradd. Today I want to talk about something that's bound to garner some online outrage. We'll see. But the premise is going to be that we in our society are not suffering from toxic masculinity. We as a society are suffering from a toxic lack of masculinity. And it's that masculinity that we're going to need, and I'll get to this in a moment, to counteract and undo the savage work of those who think that man is a beast. If you want to overcome pornography and you're a man, you're going to need your masculinity. You're going to need your God-given strength. And I would say that it's due to a lack of masculinity that has kept people in the shackles of pornography. It's kept fathers from speaking to their daughters and sons about pornography. It's prevented them from implementing things in their household like covenant eyes or using an excellent router or something like that because they don't want people to be upset with them or something like that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I want to begin with this quote, which I partially quoted a moment ago, which comes from Saint Jose Maria Escriva. He says this: "There is a need for a crusade of manliness and purity to counteract and undo the savage work of those who think that man is a beast. And that crusade is your work." I remember seeing a sticker once, and it was a beast of some kind. It looked like a werewolf or some kind of monster. And I looked at the sticker, I wondered what it was about, and it said this: "Next time you're on the prowl, use a condom or bring a condom." The message was clear that men prey upon other people. Men prowl about looking for a victim. But hey, if you're going to use people, if you're going to objectify them, if you're going to degrade them, at the very least, use a condom. This is the kind of savage work that Jose Maria Escriva refers to. Man is not a mere beast. Man is not a beast at all. Man is a rational animal. So here's what I want to say. I want to say that it's due to a feminacy in men that they refuse to do anything serious about overcoming pornography. All right? It's one thing to say that a man has implemented covenant eyes, that he has an accountability partner, that he's going to therapy, that he's confessing his sin when he falls. That's fine. What I'm referring to is more the effeminacy that leads a man not to make any of these decisions because he's comfortable being weak. Now, why am I using the word effeminacy? When I'm saying effeminate or effeminacy, I'm using it in the way that Aristotle or Thomas Aquinas are often translated. I'm not referring to men who may be interested in things that are stereotypically considered female. I'm not referring to a guy as effeminate because he doesn't work out 5 times a day or anything like that. That's superficial, that's stupid, that's not what we're talking about. When I'm talking about being effeminate, I'm talking about someone who refuses to persevere because it's hard, because it's difficult. And this needs to go. And in exchange for that, what we need is men to be manly, men to embrace their masculinity and to eschew, to reject a toxic lack of it, which I'm going to call effeminacy. So I want to share a little bit here from Thomas Aquinas when he's addressing this sin of effeminacy. And again, if you misunderstand how I've just defined effeminacy, that's on you. I'm not taking aim at anybody who might consider themselves less manly in some superficial way. I've already described that. I'm not going to keep doing it. Here's what Aquinas says. The philosopher, by which he means Aristotle, in the Ethics, says that the persevering man is opposed to the effeminate. And then Aquinas says this: perseverance is deserving of praise because thereby a man does not forsake a good on account of long endurance of difficulties and toils. Let's just pause there a moment. Living a chaste life in a pornified culture choosing to live a chaste life when you've been exposed to pornography, when you've been involved in fornication as a younger man, it's bloody difficult. And it requires perseverance. And it's effeminacy, okay, that leads a man to forsake the good, let's say of chastity or of a pure marriage, of not looking at pornography. Why? On account of long endurance of difficulties and toils. In other words, we face these obstacles, and instead of getting up if we fall down and moving forward, instead of making manly resolutions so that it need not be as easy as falling into sin when I'm tempted, we give up. We give up. And when men give up on the manly work of purity, they justify their weakness. This is something that Friedrich Nietzsche and others have called ressentiment, which is the French word for resentment, which, when used in this context, means when you feel impotent to attain a particular good, you demonize that good and those who are interested in it. Why? Because you feel like you're incapable of it. So rather than saying this is a good thing that I'm incapable of achieving, you say, you know what? It's way easier to say that's a bad thing. Like, I don't even want that anyway. And anyone who's interested in that, they're the problem. That's what you see in people who speak poorly of those who are trying to make their lives better by quitting porn, quitting masturbation, and getting serious about their marriages or their future marriages. They'll call you a prude. They'll call you frigid. They'll call you uptight. Right? They demonize the good because they feel themselves impotent to attain it. That is what is meant by ressentiment. And this is the coward's way out. All right, let's read this again. Perseverance is deserving of praise, because thereby a man does not forsake a good on account of long endurance of difficulties and toil. And it is directly opposed to this, seemingly, for a man to be ready to forsake a good on account of difficulties which he cannot endure. This is what we understand by effeminacy, because a thing is said to be soft if it readily yields to the touch. You perceive a good, you wish to attain it, you experience resistance, obstacles, toils, difficulties, hardship, and you just give up. That's what Aquinas and Aristotle mean by effeminacy. Now, he says, now, a thing is not declared to be soft through yielding to a heavy blow, for walls yield to the battering ram. Wherefore a man is not said to be effeminate if he yields to heavy blows. So when Aquinas talks about this, he's not saying like, let's say you were a kid, or maybe slightly older than a kid, and someone exposed you to pornography, and maybe you were unable to leave for whatever reason, or you were preyed upon in some way. It's not effeminate to be overwhelmed by something that it wouldn't be reasonable to stand against. That's not what effeminacy means. And so he says, hence Aristotle says that it is no wonder if a person is overcome by strong and overwhelming pleasures or sorrows, but he is to be pardoned if he struggles against them. I'm going to say that again, because it's Aristotle, and sometimes you need to say it more than once. It is no wonder if a person is overcome by strong and overwhelming pleasures or sorrows. Like, that doesn't surprise us when someone is completely bombarded by these things and they feel themselves overwhelmed, right? Rather, he is pardoned if he struggles against them. But I want to pause here and say that very often when we talk about struggling against pornography, there's no struggle at all. To struggle means to violently resist, in part. If I'm tempted to look at pornography, am I violently resisting, or am I just giving in whenever the temptation reveals itself? Whenever I feel the temptation, no matter how slight, I give in. I'm sorry, stop saying you're struggling with pornography. Just say you're giving in because you're a coward and you expect life to be easy. Now, it is evident that fear of danger is more impelling than the desire of pleasure. Wherefore Tully says, under the heading, true magnanimity, or greatness of soul, consists in two things. It is inconsistent for one who is not cast down by fear to be defeated by lust, or who has proved himself unbeatable by toil to yield to pleasure. Moreover, pleasure itself is a stronger motive of attraction than sorrow, for the lack of pleasure is a motive of withdrawal, since lack of pleasure is pure privation. Wherefore, according to the philosopher, again Aristotle, properly speaking, an effeminate man is one who withdraws from good on account of sorrow caused by lack of pleasure, yielding as it were to a weak motion. There's something really insightful here. Pleasure itself, listen to this, pleasure itself is a stronger motive of attraction than sorrow. So if I'm wanting to overcome pornography, it seems that Thomas would suggest to me, think of the pleasures that will result in you being manly and struggling against them, more than you think of the sorrow that will result if you give in. Thomas seems to be saying the only thing that can conquer a desire is a stronger desire. I've said it in the past, I think it bears repeating. What could possibly be stronger than a man's desire to lust after or to use a woman? And I would say unequivocally that it's his desire to love her properly, to protect her. And I think that's what we need to tap into so that we can be manly, avoid being effeminate, and struggle for the good for which we were all made. This is the Victory Channel. If you have not yet subscribed, do us a favor, click subscribe, click the bell button, and maybe see if you got the courage to tell another person about this video. God bless.